The sky over Earth changed forever one bright morning. At first, people thought it was a strange solar event, lines of light cutting across the clouds like rivers of gold. But when those lights began to move in formation, the truth became clear. Massive shapes, black and silver, slid from behind the clouds. They were not planes. They were not satellites. They were ships. Across the world, people stopped in their tracks. In cities, streets went silent. Children pointed to the sky. Farmers dropped their tools. Soldiers ran to their posts. The ships were so large they cast shadows over entire towns. Humanity had always wondered if someone else was out there. Now they knew, and the answer had come with thunder. Inside the Earth Defense Headquarters, every screen flashed with signals. The radar operators tried to measure the size of the crafts, but their instruments overloaded. "They're bigger than anything we've ever seen," said one technician, staring in disbelief. The largest one's almost 10 kilometers wide. Commander Ryan, head of the Global Defense Command, stood quietly in the control room. His uniform was simple, but his eyes were sharp. He didn't speak for several seconds as the images filled the main screen. Thousands of alien ships hanging above Earth, glowing faintly blue. "Open global broadcasts," he said finally. The signal carried across all nations, all networks. His face appeared on billions of screens. "This is Commander Ryan," he said calmly. "Remain where you are, stay calm. We will observe before we act." His voice did not shake. His tone was steady. That steadiness became a wave of calm across the world. Then the aliens spoke. Every screen on Earth went dark for a moment. Then a figure appeared, tall, thin, with skin like liquid silver. Its eyes glowed like cold stars. The voice that came from its mouth was deep and mechanical, but it carried across every speaker in every language. "People of Earth," it said, "you stand before the Galactic Empire of Varonis. We have come not to negotiate but to rule. Submit to our command or face total destruction." The words echoed for minutes. No one moved. The Empire's ships hung in the sky, silent but full of power. In the control room, Ryan folded his arms. "So," he said softly, "they came with arrogance." One of his officers, a young man named Thomas, looked pale. "Sir, what should we do? Should we send a message back?" Ryan looked at the screens again. On one monitor, people were gathering in the streets, filming the ships with their phones. Some even waved. The sight made him smile faintly. "Let's see what they do first," he said. "They think they've come to frighten us. Let's not ruin the surprise." Across the world, the reaction was not what the Empire expected. In Paris, a group of artists set up their cameras to paint the alien ships. In Tokyo, a cafe offered a new drink called Galactic Latte. In New York, someone made a joke online that went viral. "If they want to destroy us, they'll have to wait until we finish lunch." The humans were not afraid. They were curious and a little amused. Inside the Empire's flagship, Emperor Draxon Varan sat on a throne made of crystal and gold. His body was covered in armor that shone like a mirror. Around him, alien officers knelt. "Have they surrendered yet?" Draxon asked. His advisor bowed. "No, my Emperor. They appear." Come. Draxon's metallic eyes narrowed. "Do they not understand who we are? They do not seem to fear us." The Emperor stood tall as a pillar. His voice rumbled through the hall. "Then they will learn fear." He turned to his communication officer. "Send an envoy. Let them know the power they face. Tell them their world belongs to the Empire now." That evening, a new ship descended toward Earth. It was smaller, shaped like a silver spear glowing from within. It landed outside Geneva, where the newly formed World Council waited. From it stepped the envoy, Varnick, a high-ranking alien official. He had long limbs and eyes that reflected everything like mirrors. His armor shimmered and his voice echoed when he spoke. The human delegates stood in a line, calm and quiet. Cameras streamed the meeting live. Varnick raised his hand. "People of Earth," he began, "you are now subjects of the Galactic Empire. From this moment forward, your governments will dissolve. Your planet's resources, population, and technology will serve the Emperor. You have one rotation of your planet to obey." The human leader at the front, Commander Ryan, took a small step forward. He studied the alien's shining armor for a moment, then said with a calm smile, "We thank you for visiting. But Earth is not for sale." Varnick's eyes glowed brighter. "You misunderstand. This is not a request." Ryan's voice stayed steady. "And you misunderstand us. Humans do not bow so easily. The alien envoy seemed surprised. You dare defy the Empire? Ryan shrugged slightly. Defy? No, we're just not impressed yet. The alien envoy left in silence. But before he stepped onto his ship, he turned and said, When our fleet fires, there will be nothing left of your cities. You will know despair. Ryan looked at him and said quietly, We've already known despair. That's why we're still here. The human soldiers standing nearby couldn't help but smile. The envoy didn't understand. He saw calm faces and thought it was foolishness. But those faces belonged to people who had already lived through wars, disasters, and loss. Fear was not new to humanity, and because of that, the Empire's threats felt almost old-fashioned. Later that night, Ryan met with his team in the underground command center. Holograms showed the Empire's fleet above Earth, thousands of ships, weapons ready. One officer said, We can't fight that, sir. Their technology is centuries ahead of us. Ryan looked at the hologram quietly. Then he said, No army in history has ever truly understood us before they fought us. Let's keep that tradition alive. The room grew quiet. Then Ryan continued, While they talk about power, we learn. While they prepare their weapons, we prepare our minds. Humans don't win by strength, we win by will. The others nodded. Around the world, Earth scientists and engineers began to move in secret. Satellites changed orbit. Underground facilities powered up. Every nation, once divided, now worked together. The Empire saw one planet. What they didn't see was one people, united for the first time in history. The next morning, the alien fleet sent a message across all channels. Final warning, kneel before the Emperor or be destroyed. The world waited for Ryan's answer. He stood before the camera again, hands behind his back, and said calmly, We heard you, and we have decided. A long pause followed. Then he smiled. No, the feed ended. People across the planet began to laugh, quiet at first, then louder. It was not madness. It was courage. It was the laughter of a species that had seen death too many times to be scared anymore. The Empire didn't understand the sound echoing from Earth that day. But humanity did. It was the sound of defiance. It was the sound that said, We've met worse. And we're still standing. And for the first time in centuries, every human heart beat together, not in fear, but in pride. As the alien fleet prepared their weapons, Ryan looked up at the sky from the balcony of the defense center. The stars were hidden behind the shadows of enemy ships. He whispered to himself, They think they've come to teach us fear. Let's show them what humor looks like when the world refuses to kneel. Then he turned to his officers. Ready every satellite. Begin full scan. I want their power systems, their communication lines, everything. If they're watching us, let's give them a good show. The officers moved quickly. The screens glowed brighter. For the first time, humanity wasn't waiting for someone to save them. They were preparing to fight back. And as the first thunder of alien energy rippled across the upper atmosphere, Ryan smiled and whispered the words that would soon echo across the galaxy. Let's make them laugh with us. The day after Commander Ryan refused to surrender, the world woke under strange skies. The alien ships still hung above the clouds like dark mountains. Their shadows covered entire countries. People in every city could see them, some shining like mirrors, others pulsing with slow, cold light. The air itself seemed to hum with invisible energy. News screens all over the world repeated the same message. The Galactic Empire is waiting for Earth's answer. But Earth had already answered. And the answer was no. Still no attack came, not yet. It was as if the aliens were watching, curious, confused, maybe even insulted. In the high-orbit command ship, the alien envoy Varnick stood before Emperor Draxon Varon. The Emperor sat on his throne silent, his eyes glowing faintly red. Around them, alien officers whispered in their strange metallic voices. They refused. The Emperor finally said. Varnick bowed low. Yes, my Emperor. They laughed. Draxon's voice was sharp. No one laughs at the Empire. Varnick kept his head down. They are different, my lord. They do not act like other conquered species. They are small, yet they show no fear. Draxon rose from his throne, his tall body glowing with energy. Then they will learn fear the hard way. Prepare a demonstration. Let them see what happens to those who mock the Empire. Back on Earth, Commander Ryan sat with his officers in the underground command center. Holograms of the alien fleet rotated slowly above the table. His team was exhausted but focused. Sir, said scientist Dr. Mina, pointing to the display. "We've managed to intercept part of their communication system. Their ships are linked through something like a quantum signal web. It's faster than anything we've ever seen, but it has a weak point." Ryan leaned closer. "Explain." "They use pure digital encoding. No interference, no analog signals. That means," Ryan finished her thought with a half smile, "they never had to deal with static noise or old technology." She nodded. "Exactly. If we use analog signals, radio, magnetic pulses, even simple sound waves, they won't know how to filter it. It could confuse their systems." Ryan looked around at his team. "So their strength is also their weakness," Dr. Mina smiled. "If we can build a way to flood their network with random analog noise, we might be able to scramble their sensors." "Then start immediately," Ryan said. "Use old military stations, radio towers, everything we can. They think they're facing a primitive race. Let's give them something ancient and terrifying: human creativity." While engineers rushed to work, life continued across the planet. People watched the skies and waited. Some children drew pictures of the ships in their school notebooks. Some old soldiers cleaned their medals and stared upward with calm eyes. Farmers, fishermen, and factory workers all carried on with quiet strength. It was as if Earth had decided to treat the invasion as just another storm to survive. The Empire's message came again that evening. Every screen flickered to life, showing the silver-skinned Emperor Draxon himself. "People of Earth," he said, his voice cold and echoing, "you were given mercy and you threw it away. Now witness the power of the Empire." A single alien ship broke formation. It hovered over a wide desert in northern Africa. Its underside opened, glowing with bright blue energy. Then the beam fell. A pillar of light struck the ground and vaporized the sand in seconds. The shockwave spread for miles. Cameras captured the explosion, a bright flower of energy blooming across the dunes. The sound reached nearby cities moments later, shaking windows and hearts alike. When the light faded, nothing remained, no mountains, no rocks, only glass stretching to the horizon. The Emperor's voice followed. "This is mercy. The next will not be." Then the transmission ended. Silence covered the earth. For a long moment, no one spoke. In the control center, Commander Ryan stood still, watching the destroyed desert on the screen. The officers waited for his reaction. He finally said quietly, "They wanted to show power. All they've shown is arrogance." Thomas, the young officer, looked shocked.
"Sir, they just erased hundreds of kilometers of land."
"Shouldn't we?" Ryan interrupted. "Yes, we respond, but not with fear." He turned to Dr. Mina. "Activate the interference network. Let's see if their perfect systems can handle a little human chaos." All across the planet, old radio towers powered up. Abandoned communication stations that hadn't been used in 50 years came to life again. Engineers adjusted frequencies, soldiers carried out cables, and scientists filled the air with billions of random analog waves. Old televisions began to buzz. Radios screamed with static. Even phone lines crackled strangely. Above Earth, the Empire's ships suddenly began to flicker. One ship lost its steady blue light, another drifted off its formation. On the Emperor's flagship, alarms rang. "Signal distortion detected," shouted a technician. "What kind?" asked Draxon, unknown. It's not digital. It's random. We cannot predict it. Find the source," the Emperor roared. Varnick studied the readings carefully. "It's coming from everywhere. Every continent, every frequency. They are using chaos," the Emperor glared. "Shut it down." But the Empire's computers had no idea what chaos was. They were built for control, for order, for clean numbers and precise calculations. The noise confused their systems, making their targeting arrays go blind. And down below, humanity watched their screens as the giant ships began to wobble slightly in the sky. Ryan watched the hologram of the enemy fleet. The glowing dots were flickering, turning red one by one. "It's working," Dr. Mina said, her voice trembling with excitement. "Their coordination is failing." Ryan nodded. "Good, keep it going. Don't stop until their ships start arguing with themselves." Then he gave another order. "Activate Project Horizon." In hidden bases around the world, humanity's small space fleet began to move. They were old ships, tiny compared to the Empire's massive ones, but each carried powerful magnetic pulse weapons and thousands of stealth drones. The human ships launched quietly, climbing through the clouds like silver arrows. From orbit, the aliens didn't even notice them. Their sensors were blind, their communications jammed. On board one of Earth's ships, Captain Lara, an experienced pilot, looked at her display. "We're in their blind spot," she said, "targeting the smaller vessel nearest to us." "Confirmed," said her co-pilot. "Ready to fire on your mark. Do it." A single pulse beam shot from the human ship, fast, silent, invisible. It hit one of the alien cruisers, cutting through its hull like lightning. The cruiser's energy field collapsed. Its engine sparked, then exploded in a burst of blue fire. The soundless explosion spread across space like a shining flower. Cheers filled the human ship. On Earth, sensors picked it up. Commander Rian smiled. "They can bleed," he said softly. "Now they'll start to listen." In the Emperor's command ship, chaos spread. Officers shouted as they tried to regain control. "The human signal interference is spreading through our entire network," one shouted. "Our navigation is offline," yelled another. The Emperor's voice thundered. "Fire on their planet. Wipe them out!" But the cannons didn't respond. Every time they tried to charge, the circuits flickered. The noise, so small, so random, was jamming their systems completely. For the first time in his long reign, Emperor Draxon felt something he didn't understand: confusion. And under that confusion, a small spark of fear. Down on Earth, people gathered in streets and rooftops to watch. They saw flashes of light in the sky like stars fighting each other. News stations broadcast the events live. One anchor said, "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears humanity has struck back." Children clapped. Old veterans saluted. No one hid anymore. Rian watched the data feed from the control room. His voice was steady, but his eyes were bright. "They thought we would kneel. Instead, we made them dance." In orbit, the Empire's ships slowly began to retreat. The interference had forced them to fall back to the far side of the moon. Commander Ryan stood in front of the large observation window, looking up at the sky. "They'll come again," said Thomas softly. "Yes," Ryan replied. "But next time, they'll come knowing we are not easy prey." Dr. Mina joined them. "Do you think they'll ever understand us?" Ryan smiled faintly. "No, that's our advantage. They can't understand laughter. They can't understand why we smile even when facing destruction." He looked once more at the quiet, shining stars and said, "They came to teach us fear. But they're the ones learning now." And above, the stars flickered as the mighty Empire tried to recover from the strangest defeat in its long history. Defeated not by weapons, not by power, but by the cleverness and courage of the people of Earth. For 3 days, the sky remained quiet. The alien fleet had retreated to the far side of the moon, hidden behind its gray surface like a silent storm waiting to return. The world below held its breath. News channels ran endless reports. People watched, waited, and hoped. Some believed the worst was over. Others thought the silence meant something darker. Commander Ryan knew better. He had seen too many battles, too many calm skies before the next strike. As he stood on the balcony of the Earth Defense Center looking up at the moonlit clouds, he whispered to himself, "They are not gone. They are thinking." Inside the Galactic Empire's flagship, the air was filled with anger and confusion. The Emperor's hall, once a place of perfect order, now echoed with the noise of shouting officers. Emperor Draxon Varen sat on his throne, silent but furious. His eyes glowed like molten metal. The great screens around him showed the broken patterns of their last battle. His most trusted commander, Varnik, knelt before him. "My Emperor, we underestimated them," Varnik said carefully. "Their interference destroyed our targeting systems. We could not respond in time." Draxon's voice rumbled like thunder. "A primitive world with crude technology humiliated my empire. You call that an underestimation?" "No, my Emperor," Varnik said quickly. "It was arrogance, ours." The Emperor stood and stepped closer, his long cloak trailing behind him. "Then arrogance must be repaid with power. Prepare the fleet. We will strike again, harder, faster. Leave nothing to chance." Varnik hesitated. "Their signal disruption still affects our systems. If we attack too soon," Draxon raised a hand, silencing him. "I did not ask for your fear. I asked for victory. Do as you are told." Varnik bowed deeply, his voice soft. "Yes, my Emperor." Back on Earth, preparations never stopped. Dr. Mina and her team worked without sleep. Old satellites were reprogrammed. Weather stations became communication hubs. Even university labs joined in, their students helping to analyze alien data. In one lab, a young scientist named Aaron looked at the readings on his screen and said, "They're adjusting to our interference." "They're learning fast," Dr. Mina nodded. "Of course they are. But so are we. Humans don't stop learning either." She turned to her assistant. "Send this to Commander Ryan, I have an idea." That night, Ryan gathered his officers in the war room. The holographic display showed a rotating image of the moon. Dr. Mina stood beside him, holding a small remote. "The Empire is regrouping here," she said, pointing to a spot behind the moon's far side. "They are charging something big, maybe a superweapon, but they still depend on one central command signal. If we can break that link..." Ryan finished her thought. "Their fleet becomes blind again." "Exactly," she said. "But this time we'll go further. We'll feed them false data, make them believe we're attacking from places we're not. Confuse their entire network." Ryan smiled. "Perfect. Let them chase shadows." Hours later, the Empire launched its second attack. The dark side of the moon glowed blue as energy cannons charged. Dozens of massive ships began to move into position, but the moment they fired, something went wrong. Their beams struck empty space, no targets, no defenses, only silence. In the command ship, Varnick shouted, "Our targeting data is false. The human planet is not where it shows on our screens." "What do you mean?" Draxon roared. "It means, my Emperor, that their interference has reached us again. They're manipulating our sensors." Draxon slammed his fist against the console. "How can they do this with such primitive tools?" Varnick replied, "They are unpredictable, my Emperor. They're chaos, it's their weapon." Down on Earth, Ryan watched the display with calm satisfaction. The alien fleet was firing into nothingness. "Project Phantom is working," Dr. Mina said, smiling. "They're seeing false images. Every time they think they hit us, they're attacking their own illusions." "Good," Ryan said. "Keep them busy while we move our real fleet." On a hidden launch site in the Pacific Ocean, humanity's main strike ships prepared to rise. Their names were simple: Hope, Spirit, Valor, Dawn, and Earthlight. They were not large, but each carried the best technology humans could build: kinetic rail weapons, electromagnetic shields, and stealth systems based on chaos frequency masking. Captain Lara, aboard Hope, reported, "Engines ready. Crew ready. We're waiting for your signal, Commander." Ryan's voice came over the channel. "You have it. Show them that laughter isn't the only thing we're good at." The 5 ships lifted into the sky. The clouds glowed as they passed through them, leaving long trails of light. Millions of people watched from the ground, cheering. For the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving, it was fighting back. As the ships entered space, Lara's co-pilot said quietly, "They're so big compared to us." Lara smiled. "So were the mountains we climbed. Didn't stop us." The Empire's sensors finally began to clear. When they saw the small human fleet approaching, they laughed across their communication channels. "5 ships? Against thousands?" one alien officer said mockingly. But those laughs didn't last long. The human ship split apart, moving in unpredictable patterns. No formation, no rhythm, just chaos. They used space debris and asteroid fragments as cover. The aliens tried to track them, but their systems couldn't predict where they'd go next. The Empire's targeting programs were designed for logical strategies, not madness. Then Hope fired the first shot. A railgun projectile, no bigger than a car, moved faster than sound, fast enough to pierce the shield of an alien cruiser. The impact tore a glowing hole through its hull. Within seconds, the ship exploded, scattering metal and fire across space. The human fleet didn't pause. Each ship targeted a different enemy and struck with perfect timing. The aliens fired back, but most of their shots hit empty space. It was like watching a small pack of wolves attacking a giant creature, fast, silent, and deadly. In the Galactic flagship, chaos erupted. Officers shouted in confusion. 6 of our cruisers destroyed. Another 2 disabled. They moved too fast. The Emperor stood, his fury shaking the floor. Find their leader. Destroy him! But the humans had no central leader in space. Each captain acted freely, guided only by instinct and short radio bursts. And below, on Earth, Commander Ryan watched with calm eyes. "That's it," he whispered. "Never be predictable. Never give them patterns. The battle lasted for hours. The stars themselves seemed to flash as explosions bloomed like flowers in the darkness. Finally, the Empire launched its last desperate move, a massive battleship, the Obsidian Crown, armed with a planet-cracking cannon. Dr. Mina saw it on her sensors and said, "If that thing fires, we're finished." Ryan nodded. "Then we stop it before it fires." He contacted Captain Lara. "Focus all your weapons on the Crown's lower section. Aim for its stabilizers. Don't destroy it. Make it fall." Lara replied, "Understood." The Hope flew straight toward the Obsidian Crown. The alien ship was enormous, its metal surface stretching for miles. It fired beam after beam, but Lara weaved through them like a dancer. Her co-pilot shouted, "We're hit!" "Keep going," Lara ordered. She locked onto the stabilizer ring, a glowing band near the ship's base, and fired all weapons. Rail projectiles, missiles, and plasma bursts struck at once. The stabilizer exploded. The Crown began to spin, losing balance. The cannon's energy built up inside, unstable. "Get clear," Ryan ordered. The human fleet pulled back. A few seconds later, the Obsidian Crown exploded in a wave of white fire, lighting up space like a second sun. The shock wave hit the other alien ships, throwing them into chaos. Their formation broke completely. One by one, they began to retreat. On the flagship, the Emperor watched in disbelief. His grand fleet, his symbol of eternal power, was in ruins. "They're just humans," he whispered. "How can they?" Varnick interrupted softly. "Because they fight with something we do not understand, my Emperor." "They fight with spirit," Draxon said nothing. His eyes dimmed slightly as he stared at the burning wreckage outside. Down on Earth, people cheered. Fireworks lit the skies. Across every continent, the same message was broadcast. The human fleet has won the first battle, but Rian didn't celebrate yet. He looked at the data on his screen. Thousands of enemy ships still out there regrouping far away. "They'll come again," Dr. Mina said. "Yes," Ryan replied, "and they'll bring everything next time." He looked out at the sky and smiled faintly. "Let them. We'll be ready, and maybe we'll laugh even louder." In the cold darkness beyond the moon, the shattered remains of alien ships drifted silently. Among them, one small human probe floated, broadcasting a simple message to anyone who could hear. "This is Earth. We are not your subjects. We are not your prey. We are human, and we are coming for you next." And with that signal, the galaxy began to take notice. For the first time in thousands of years, the mighty Galactic Empire was afraid of a world that smiled while facing destruction and laughed while it fought back. The galaxy was quiet for only a short while. Humanity had won the first battle, but the Empire's shadow still stretched across space. The shattered ships of the Obsidian Crown and its fleet floated as silent warnings to anyone who might think the humans were weak. On Earth, people cheered. Children danced in the streets and soldiers saluted as they watched the first human space victory live. News channels called it a miracle. Across continents, humans celebrated their courage, their defiance, and their unity. But Commander Rian knew the celebrations were only the beginning. The real test had not yet begun. In the Galactic Empire's flagship, Emperor Draxon Varen stared at the burning remnants of his fleet. He had ruled countless civilizations, conquered thousands of worlds, and broken every resistance in his path. Yet here, before him, a single species, humans, had shattered his plans with nothing but determination and ingenuity. "They laughed at us," Draxon said quietly, his glowing eyes narrowed. "They laughed, and they won." Varnick, the loyal commander, bowed. "My Emperor, their unpredictability is unmatched. They fight with a chaos that no machine can predict." Draxon turned slowly. "Then we will change the rules. We will fight fire with fire, chaos with order. And yet, we must be careful. Humans do not fight like others. They fight with spirit." Varnick hesitated. "Spirit?" Draxon's voice lowered. "Yes, something that cannot be measured. Something that makes them dangerous." Back on Earth, Ryan's team worked without pause. Every satellite, every telescope, and every sensor was focused on the distant fleet. Engineers monitored the aftermath of the last attack. Scientists tested new interference methods. Pilots trained continuously in virtual combat simulations. "We've seen how they respond," Rian said to Dr. Mina. "They adapt, but they cannot predict human unpredictability. We'll make that our weapon." Dr. Mina nodded. "We're ready to push forward. The next strike could come from anywhere, at any time." But this time, we will make them doubt themselves before they even fire. Across space, the Empire regrouped. They had lost several ships, and their communications were partially compromised. Draxon realized that they needed a strategy unlike any they had used before. They could not simply rely on overwhelming numbers. Humans had already shown that strength alone would not defeat them. We must strike where they least expect it, Draxon said. Divide their attention, break their defenses, and remind them that the Empire is eternal. Varnick nodded. We will deploy decoy fleets, energy storms, and false signals. But they will still adapt. They are cleverer than any species we have encountered. Draxon's glowing eyes flickered. Clever, yes. But they are mortal. And mortals always make mistakes. Rian had anticipated this. He gathered his officers in the underground war room and activated the holographic display. The Empire's fleet rotated slowly in space, showing patterns, formations, and weapon placements. See this? Ryan said, pointing to several large cruisers. They will try to overwhelm us with numbers. But they underestimate one thing. Humans don't fight predictable battles. Captain Lara, sitting in the corner, nodded. We're ready. The fleet is in position, waiting for your orders. Good, Ryan replied. We'll continue Project Phantom. Feed them false data. Force them to respond to shadows, and while they're distracted, we strike where it hurts. The Empire's first counterattack began unexpectedly. A series of beams shot toward Earth, aiming for major cities. Citizens screamed as alarms sounded. But almost immediately, the beams scattered into space, missing every target. Earth's interference network had scrambled their sensors again. They're seeing things that aren't there, Dr. Mina said. Our fake fleet is working, Ryan smiled. Humans are invisible in plain sight. Keep them chasing ghosts while the real fleet moves. From hidden bases, human ships launched again, smaller, faster, and more agile than before. Each captain knew their orders: strike fast, strike smart, and never allow the Empire to predict their moves. The first clash occurred above the Atlantic Ocean. A human frigate, Spirit, fired at an approaching alien cruiser. The shot tore through the cruiser's shield, leaving a glowing hole in its side. Another human ship, Valor, launched stealth drones that swarmed the enemy sensors, creating false targets everywhere. The alien ships fired blindly, striking nothing. Their formations collapsed as they tried to track the humans' movements. From orbit, the Empire watched in disbelief. Varnick shouted in frustration, "They are everywhere! How can 5 small ships do this?" Draxon's voice rumbled across the command bridge. They are not 5 ships. They are the entire spirit of their species, and that is dangerous. Humanity's strike continued relentlessly. The human fleet moved like a shadow, unseen yet present. They struck cruisers, disabled weapons, and created confusion at every turn. Pilots relied on instinct, not calculations, weaving through debris fields, space rocks, and broken alien satellites. On Earth, Commander Ryan monitored every move, communicating with each captain. His calm voice guided them but never dictated. Humans fought with freedom, and that freedom became a weapon. Above the moon, the Empire's flagship tried to regain control. They deployed energy storms, massive waves of destructive plasma, to block the humans, but humans adapted quickly. Ships used magnetic shields to deflect the plasma. They moved unpredictably, luring the storm waves into empty space. "Why won't they stop moving?" one alien officer shouted. "They don't act like any species we've conquered," Varnick whispered, "because they do not fear death. At least not like we understand it. They fight because it matters to them and because it is fun." Draxon's glowing eyes narrowed. "Fun? What is this madness?" The Empire unleashed their largest dreadnoughts, hoping sheer size would intimidate the humans. But human ingenuity triumphed again. Captain Lara led Hope in a daring maneuver, dodging massive energy beams and using gravitational slingshots around space debris. Valor and Spirit split to attack from unexpected angles. Stealth drones jammed sensors while the humans struck with railgun projectiles. One alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Another lost its engines and drifted helplessly. The dreadnoughts began to falter. Above Earth, civilians watched the sky fill with light. Some cheered, some cried, but all marveled at what they saw. Humans fighting a galactic empire. And winning. The laughter began during the final moments of the battle. It started quietly in the human fleet, pilots laughing over comms, soldiers cheering silently, and scientists smiling as their calculations worked perfectly. Then it spread to Earth. Children laughed at the sky. Citizens shouted in joy. The Empire's messages, once filled with terror, were now drowned out by a sound they did not understand. Joy. Varnick turned to Draxon. They laugh, even in the face of destruction. Draxon's eyes flickered with anger and disbelief. They are monsters. How can mortals defy us so? They are not monsters, my Emperor, Varnick replied. They are human. The last strike of the battle came from a clever tactic humans had prepared in secret. They set up decoy ships across the asteroid belt. The Empire, thinking the humans were concentrated near Earth, fired their largest cannons at these decoys. Each shot struck empty asteroids, creating massive explosions that blinded the Empire's sensors. Meanwhile, the real human fleet attacked from behind the enemy lines, disabling their ships one by one. It was a perfect combination of deception, courage, and improvisation, the core of human ingenuity. When the dust cleared, the Empire had lost nearly half of the ships in the attack fleet. The remaining vessels retreated into the darkness beyond the solar system, battered and confused. Humanity had not just survived, they had defeated a part of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. On Earth, people cheered. Leaders smiled. Soldiers saluted. Scientists hugged. Children pointed at the sky, shouting, "We did it!" And Commander Rian simply watched, calm and proud. They thought fear would stop us, he said to Dr. Mina. But they forgot that humans fight with more than strength. We fight with spirit, with courage, and sometimes we fight with laughter. Dr. Mina smiled. They'll remember this day, Commander. The galaxy will remember Earth, Ryan nodded. Let them. This is only the beginning. Above the stars, the Empire's retreating ships sent a warning to their distant allies. Humans are not to be underestimated. They are unlike any other species we have faced. Their courage and cleverness make them dangerous. Approach them with caution. And for the first time in history, the galaxy heard the legend of a planet that did not cower. A planet that laughed in the face of annihilation. A planet that would never be conquered. The calm after the battle lasted only a few hours. Humanity had won the first round, but the Empire was regrouping far beyond the solar system. Every communications channel from space to Earth was buzzing with reports. Satellites relayed data from the destroyed enemy fleet. Pilots reported damages and victories. Scientists analyzed enemy technology. And Commander Rian, standing in the underground command center, knew the galaxy had not seen the last of the Empire. They will come again, he said softly to Dr. Mina. Yes, she replied. Stronger, faster, smarter. Ryan's eyes glimmered with determination. Then we will be ready. But they must learn one thing first. Humans do not fear. Humans do not kneel. Humans fight. In the Empire's command ship, Emperor Draxon Varen slammed his fist against the console. Every screen flashed with reports of losses. He had never been so frustrated in his long rule. They are different, he whispered. They do not obey, they do not fear, they do not stop. How is this possible? Varnick knelt before him, careful not to meet the Emperor's burning eyes. My Emperor. They fight with spirit. They are unpredictable. They are human. Draxon's voice was low, almost inaudible. Then we must crush that spirit. No mercy, no hesitation. Every world in our path will see what happens when the Empire is defied. But deep in his mind, a thought lingered. No species had ever laughed while facing annihilation, and yet these humans did. That simple fact unsettled him more than any weapon could. Back on Earth, preparations continued. The human fleet was ready. Project Phantom had expanded. Decoy ships, interference networks, stealth drones, and newly constructed battle satellites surrounded the planet. Engineers worked night and day to build new railguns and magnetic shields. Scientists developed advanced countermeasures against alien energy weapons. Captain Lara stood aboard Hope, watching the distant stars. Commander, we're ready for anything, she said over the comms. Good, Ryan replied. This time we are not just defending. This time we will remind the galaxy why humans survive and why we thrive. The Empire launched their next attack with overwhelming force. Thousands of ships advanced toward the inner solar system. Beams of destructive energy lit up space. Their numbers alone were terrifying, but humanity was ready. The interference network scrambled the Empire's targeting systems. False fleets of decoys made the aliens fire blindly. The human fleet moved like shadows, striking weak points before vanishing again. Ryan's strategy was simple: confuse, distract, and strike where the enemy was weakest. And it worked. The first major clash happened near the asteroid belt. The Empire deployed a massive dreadnought, the Voidbreaker, its cannons glowing ominously. Pilot Lara led a squad of human ships in a daring maneuver. They dodged debris, used gravitational slingshots, and fired with precision. A single railgun projectile tore through the Voidbreaker's shield. The dreadnought wobbled, its energy beam misfiring. Then, one by one, the human fleet struck, targeting engines, stabilizers, and communication arrays. The Voidbreaker exploded in a brilliant flash, sending shockwaves across nearby enemy vessels. Chaos spread through the fleet. Varnick could not believe his eyes. How? 5 small ships? They are not small, Draxon said, his glowing eyes narrowing. They are the whole human race fighting as one. The Emperor realized his entire strategy was failing. The humans were not predictable. They did not fight by logic or numbers alone. They fought with creativity, courage, and a freedom the Empire had never understood. They must be stopped, Draxon shouted. Bring in the super dreadnoughts. Varnick bowed. Yes, my Emperor. On Earth, Ryan watched the movement of the massive enemy ships. He knew a frontal assault would be suicide. Instead, he activated the next stage of Project Phantom. Prepare the Earth signal, he ordered. Dr. Mina adjusted the arrays. It's ready. Once we send it, the Empire's fleet will see their worst fears, but only as shadows. They will strike at each other while we control the real battlefield. Do it, Ryan said. The signal spread across the enemy fleet. Lights flickered. Beams misfired. Dreadnoughts collided. Chaos erupted. Ships began to fall apart from their own errors, striking each other as if invisible hands were guiding them. From the ground, people watched as the stars seemed to dance, lights flashing in impossible patterns. Humanity's ingenuity was on full display. Captain Lara led the final assault on the Empire's command ship. The Hope and its squadron moved with a mixture of bravery and calculated risk. They dodged massive beams, passed through debris clouds, and struck the enemy's engines and shields repeatedly. One final strike, aimed precisely at the core of the flagship, caused a chain reaction. Energy rippled outward. The command ship's systems collapsed, leaving the fleet leaderless. In orbit, the Empire's remaining ships hesitated. They had never faced such a combination of strategy, courage, and unpredictability. On the flagship, Draxon realized his mistake too late. His eyes burned with fury, but he also understood something new. These humans, he whispered almost to himself, they are not to be feared for their strength. They are to be feared for their will, their courage, their defiance, their laughter. Varnick watched silently. Yes, my Emperor. We have underestimated them. Entirely. And for the first time, the Emperor felt something he had never felt before. Fear. On Earth, people erupted in celebration. Children laughed. Soldiers cheered. Civilians sang. And across the planet, a single thought resonated everywhere. Humanity had survived the impossible. Ryan stood quietly in the control center, watching the stars. Dr. Mina approached. They'll regroup, she said softly. They'll come back stronger. Ryan smiled faintly. Yes, but next time they'll remember who they are facing. And maybe, just maybe, they'll think twice before threatening humanity again. The Empire's retreating ships sent messages to distant systems. Beware the humans. They are unlike any other species. They do not obey. They do not fear. They do not surrender. They fight with cunning and courage. They fight with spirit. Across the galaxy, civilizations began to whisper of the planet that had laughed while being threatened with annihilation, a planet that had stared into the face of the most powerful empire in existence, and not just survived, but triumphed. In the quiet of space, humanity's fleet regrouped. Ships repaired themselves. Pilots rested. Scientists analyzed captured enemy data, and Commander Rian, standing on the deck of the Hope, looked at the stars once more. They promised destruction, he said quietly, and we chuckled. They sent fire and we turned it back. They thought fear would break us, but it didn't. They will never forget Earth. Dr. Mina smiled. They will not forget because they have learned the one thing humans are best at. What's that? Ryan asked, surviving, together, with courage, with ingenuity, with spirit, and sometimes, with laughter. Months later, the Empire returned to the edge of the solar system, but they no longer attacked directly. Their scouts reported humans preparing defenses, building new ships and strengthening alliances. Everywhere the Empire looked, humans were united, ready, and unpredictable. They had learned a lesson that no technology could teach. Never underestimate a species that does not fear, that adapts, that fights with courage, and that can laugh even in the face of annihilation. Commander Rian stood atop a cliff overlooking the ocean, watching the sky streak with stars. He felt the pulse of his planet, the heartbeat of a species that refused to be conquered. He smiled faintly and whispered to the wind, "Let the galaxy know. We are human, and we are unstoppable." And so humanity had won not just a battle, but the respect of the stars. The Galactic Empire had promised destruction, but Earth remained free. Not because humans were stronger, not because they had better weapons, but because they were human, clever, courageous, united, and full of spirit. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans are not to be threatened. Humans are to be respected. Humans are extraordinary. And somewhere far beyond the stars, the faint echo of laughter carried across the void, the sound of a species that refused to kneel.